It's late spring. At Beaver Ponds, things don't seem quite as hectic as in early spring. The weather has moderated. Trees are leafing out. In the bird community, most of the competition for nesting territories has now been resolved, and nests are laden with eggs or young. A blue jay finds an old acorn to eat before settling back on her nest. A gray catbird calls. Preferring dense cover, they're heard more often than seen. Chestnut-sided warblers are attracted to young forest regrowth around the shoreline. Male orioles are still sorting out some issues. While this female would rather sip nectar from the tiny flowers of invasive glossy buckthorn. Great crested flycatchers are taking airborne insects from perches in the trees. A great blue heron zeroes in on a fish in the shallows, with little concern for the nearby nest of a red-winged blackbird. Having wintered in South America, scarlet tanagers have returned to dine on New England's bountiful insects. What do spider webs and cattail down have in common? They come together at the hand, or rather the beak, of yellow warblers. She's building her fluffy nest with cattail down she gathers in dozens of flights to the pond over a period of several days. Now she ties it to the shrub with silk from spiderwebs. A second yellow warbler is doing the same in another shrub. She presses her body down to form a deep nest cup. She does get to take a meal break every so often while her mate stands by. Downy woodpeckers have been busy excavating an apartment in a dead tree along the shore. And an American robin already has young that need plenty of food. An early morning walk to the pond is part of the daily routine for two old white-tailed bucks. One waits behind while the other takes the risk of exposure to predators. All clear now. As quickly as a dandelion turns to fluff, the baby robins have left the nest. Warmer water temperatures have triggered carp to spawn. These large, introduced fish have now established themselves as an integral part of the aquatic community. Thousands of eggs will be deposited and fertilized. The heron has found a quiet spot where it can fish in peace now. The eggs of many species are produced in spring. This cranefly is depositing hers in the mud along shore. Her flight is noticed by a kingbird. A near miss. But the kingbird certainly won't go hungry. A number of weeks ago, Young, common garter snakes weren't quite sure they wanted to emerge from their winter den yet, and stayed close to its entrance. Males emerge first and wait for the females. But now garters are active. Garter snakes usually capture live prey, but this one has found a dead toad. Highly evolved jaws allow the snake to open its mouth widely. But without hands or feet, a snake must engulf its prey and swallow it whole. It can't chew. It advances one side of its mouth at a time until the prey is consumed. Unfortunately for this garter, the dead toad is dry and stiff. The snake won't be able to swallow the toad with those outstretched legs and will have to abandon it. In a stiff spring breeze, a female red-winged blackbird uses the headwind to hover over the surface and pick off aquatic insects. Redwings are quite capable of taking insects on the wing, too. The redwing gathers material for her nest. To avoid revealing its location, she checks for predators before entering it. She's well camouflaged among the cattails. She does leave the nest to feed, and a bath is refreshing. While a kingfisher waits out a rainstorm, a goose fight, and the spectators cheer them on. With the rain ended, the hunt for food resumes. You don't often see whirligig beetles out of the water. They're usually swimming about frantically. A phoebe decides to pluck one off the surface. But drops it. She's not hunting to feed only herself. This dragonfly, a common green darner, may be a resident, or it may have just returned from last fall's migration to the south. Big dragonflies are a valuable meal. A northern water snake prowls the pond. It's harmless to humans, but fish and frogs? However, this male snake is not seeking a meal, though the frog doesn't know that. It's in search of something else. And by following a pheromone scent trail, it has finally found her, a potential mate. Their brightly colored patterns will darken considerably as they age, until the snakes appear almost black. Slowly, he positions himself to align his cloaca with hers, so that mating can take place. A second male arrives. But the first is already mating with the female. A day later, the pair are still together. That cloudy eye indicates that she'll be shedding her skin soon. In late summer, she'll give birth to a large litter of offspring that will look like this. Have you ever wondered what causes those little blips on the water's surface? Could be small fish, but often they're due to these tadpoles. Initially, they obtained oxygen in the water through gills, but now they've metamorphosed to the point where they have lungs, and they pop up to the surface to gulp air. This is a tadpole of the gray tree frog with a peculiar adaptation. If no predatory insects are in its pond, it will have a plain brown tail. But if predators are present, such as giant water bugs and dragonfly larvae, they will emit chemicals called chiromones, and the tadpole will have a larger red tail. For some reason, that red tail helps them survive predators. This is a green frog that is not yet fully metamorphosed. It has grown legs, but hasn't yet absorbed its tail. Now water snakes are hungry for a meal. Tadpoles are on the menu. Despite predation by many creatures, a lot of tadpoles do become mature frogs. Male green frogs are now issuing their mating calls. Then the bullfrogs take the stage. Soon they're all croaking and groaning. The blue jays now have young in the nest. Besides feeding the young, they must keep them and the nest clean. One of their chores is to remove fecal sacs. Some birds will eat the fecal sacs of their very young nestlings. Others will carry them away and drop them. With nestlings of his own now, the male yellow warbler is kept busy bringing food to his mate and young ones. And there are now osprey chicks in their nest. The male osprey brings fish to his mate after taking a little of it for himself. She will tear it into pieces and feed the chicks. Dead standing trees are important to these birds, but logs and stumps are critical features in the pond too. They provide access to hunting spots, critical basking sites needed by amphibians and reptiles, and convenient perches in any weather. Reptiles need to bask in the sun. If you're a painted turtle, you can try basking on a friend's back, but that doesn't work too well. Better to be on a log, where you can defy gravity. But with bothersome insects, that doesn't always work out well either. Sometimes it's better to just stay in the water. Small snapping turtles like to bask on logs, and so do crusty old ones. Even frogs need sunny logs. If it gets too shady, it's the time of year when red fox kits are out of the den, waiting to be fed. It's also the time of year when 2-year-old beavers are invited to leave their parents' home and go make one of their own, so the parents can raise a new litter. They've been taught the skills they'll need to find food, build a shelter, and a dam. They may be reluctant to strike out on their own. Many will not survive the journey, taken by predators or killed on roads. They'll seek an unoccupied stretch of stream, preferably with a slow to moderate flow. Narrow ravines are avoided. A large pond can't be built there. A choice location is a wide, flat-bottomed valley where a low dam will flood many acres, giving access to plenty of shoreline and trees. Ideally, there will be aspens and other poplars available, although aspens are rather scarce right now in New England's beaver habitat. Alders and willows are other favorites. Adult beavers may also be on the move to find a new home if they've exhausted their food supply. The first task is to find or dig a burrow for shelter with an underwater entrance. These are out of use now due to low water. If an existing lake or pond is chosen, there may be no need to build a dam to create a pond. But if a dam is needed, it's often begun by cutting small trees and shrubs. The sticks are jammed into the stream bottom as a foundation. Stones and more sticks are added. Then mud and debris are used on the upstream side to seal the dam. This beaver would have done well to cut this log into shorter lengths. Leaving the safety of the water to cut trees puts even a large beaver at risk. Predators are always around. The sound of running water prompts the beaver to seal the small leak. Diving to the bottom, the beaver scoops up mud to pack onto the dam. The leak is pretty well sealed up now. Another leak needs attention. Early morning, it's quitting time. The female yellow warbler leaves the nest to hunt, but her mate zooms in with food because the chicks are growing rapidly. She returns with food, and he darts in and out with more. He removes a fecal sac. This is how it will be for a while. There are other colorful insect-eating warblers here. An American redstart, a common yellowthroat, Speaking of yellow, pond lilies are blooming now. What better symbol of beauty is there than a water lily? Well, a snapping turtle maybe. Two snappers are on their way to a chance encounter. If it's two males, there could be a fight. They meet. This is starting to look more like a male and female mating. After nearly an hour, and seemingly no worse for wear, they part. Late spring is egg-laying time for turtles in New England. This painted turtle finds the roadside gravel just right to dig her nest in. It's a poor location, and her young likely will not survive. The eggs may be crushed by traffic or dug up by a skunk, raccoon, or fox. Nonetheless, she digs a hole several inches deep with her hind feet. She drops the eggs in and backfills the hole. She does such a thorough job that humans would never detect the nest, but predators won't be fooled. There's a disturbance in the redwing's nest area. Something is jostling the cattails. It's a muskrat having a nice lunch. This won't be tolerated by the female. She has 2 young ones just out of the nest. An otter is passing through. With things nicely greened up, there's plenty of food nearby. What are these unfamiliar-looking creatures? They are the empty exoskeletons of dragonfly larvae. Having hatched from eggs, dragonflies spend possibly years underwater in larval form, preying on various organisms. They will ultimately crawl out of the water and, in their final molt, emerge from their split skins to become the familiar adult dragonflies. Fluid is pumped into their wings to unfold them. Once the wings have dried and hardened, the dragonfly will be able to fly. They will develop their final body colors over time. However, many emerging dragonflies will never take to the air. They're much too valuable a food source to pass up. The older of the 2 red-winged chicks is fed. Mom checks whether a fecal sac must be taken away. A short nap, and another meal arrives. A red-shouldered hawk is calling from across the pond. The younger chick moves closer to get a meal. Mom does the usual sanitary check and removes the waste. The ethereal song of a veery amid mountain laurel in bloom. Pileated woodpeckers seem to somehow sense which trees harbor a meal of carpenter ants. This one is revisiting a maple tree where it previously feasted, and finds another meal. There's that red-shouldered hawk calling from the woods again. There's plenty of food in the pond for ducks. This wood duck brings her family into the weeds to eat bugs, while she heads for the pond lilies to fill up on tasty seeds. Oh, but the seeds aren't ripe yet. Still, she keeps trying. There's that red-shouldered hawk calling. It would be nice to get a glimpse of it. Just can't get those stubborn seeds. There are now chicks in the great blue heron nest. 11 days later, they've grown quite a bit, constantly demanding food. Not every attempt a heron makes to catch fish is successful. But finally, the bullhead catfish is a bit of a challenge to subdue. It erects and locks the sharp spines in its pectoral fins. There's only one way the adult can deliver food to the chicks: regurgitation. The resurgence of beaver ponds has benefited heron species. Great egrets take advantage of the fishing here. The smaller green heron does too. They're so sure-footed. Well, most of the time. Might as well take a bath now. If I could just... Oh, look, a dragonfly. And dragonflies will play an important role at the pond all summer.